It's a relatively simple system. It's based on an idea of free improvisation. There's no major kick drum or anything. When I do use rhythms, they're going to be very polyrhythmic. They're going to be playing against one another, but there's one central clock that's kind of pushing things forward. So let me talk you through it and we can see what we've got. So we start over here. The abstract data octa controller is essentially the brain of the system. That's sending gates out to all manner of places. So we've got the Zolaric repetitor, which is forming all these different kind of rhythms, all these African rhythms. And what I would do live is actually tweak all the rhythms as well, so they will move between.
That takes an incoming clock signal and then spits it out as a rhythm.
Absolutely. And what it's doing is then sending it out to the Nord drum over here. Whilst it's doing that, I'm then filtering it through the Muga Fuga Mirth. And here I'm tap tempoing things, so you can see the rate will change depending on how hard I hit the button. So that's taking care of some of the rhythm, but these are all very polyrhythmic, so they're going to play against what's happening here. Fairly straightforward. There's some effects here, an echo effect. There's the Batumi LFO, which again is clocked by the octa controller, but in a different division. There's the Nano Rand, which is currently unplugged, because during the set I will randomly throw it into places to see what it brings up. There's this very quirky micro equation composer, which has all manner of things. It's a very digital module, but has a lot of flexibility, everything from drones and arpeggios and all sorts of things. So it's a very handy module to actually have in a live set, because I can flick between very percussive sounds and very abstract sounds, literally at the flick of a button. Again, that's clocked from the octa controller. More effects here, the Expert Sleepers. This is running a reverb on it, and I can tweak this here, and again that's being clocked. Two sample-based modules here, the Grandpa and the Music Thing Modular. Both of these I'm actually playing live. I'm going to be triggering them here and moving through the different effects, but also I can run a gate into it or any kind of triggers modulation, and I can move between the two samples, because you're going to have two samples playing at the same time. The Music Thing has a huge random amount of samples in it. I don't even know what they all are, let's be honest. And what I would do is be turning this around during the live set and seeing where it leads to.
What sort of things is it? Is it all manner of things?
It's all manner of things I've recorded. Everything from shortwave radio, the same with the Grandpa. The shortwave radio strings I recorded with cello player, voices, street sounds, ridiculously abstract sounds of something I just recorded and slowed down by 2 octaves. What I've done is just use it as a resource, but without knowing what's in there. I like almost John Cage idea of this thing coming through and I don't know quite what to anticipate.
So, and then I guess once something does come through, you can kind of work off that.
Yeah, I kind of cross my fingers and hope that harmonically, if it's something that's harmonic, might happen to fit in with something else I'm doing. But for me, it's about the chance possibilities of what can happen. It's like making a meal, and these are all the ingredients, and in a live situation I switch the oven on, I'm the cook, and I throw all these things into the mix and see where it leads to. So then we're on to Peaks, which is running essentially an 808 kick drum, IntelliGel filter, the Optimix, which is gating which the braids is running through to gate it, and that's being, is that being clocked? No, it's not being clocked. Braids, I'm not even sure what oscillator to use at the moment. I've got it on fold, but it could be anything during the set. This is the new Mutable Instruments rings.
It's not actually out yet.
Not even out yet, but maybe
it may be out by the time this video gets uploaded.
Exactly. But as Olivier told me, he said, let's call it a baby Elements, and it really is. It has everything that Elements offers in a sense, but a little bit more, and you can move through the different settings here. It's still quite new to me in a way, so I'm still learning to use it. But it's being, I'm sending from the IntelliGel Metropolis. I'm sending the voltage per octave into there, which is also the same one going into braids. And here I've got it also being affected, if we follow the chain through from the LFO. So the LFO is going into here, so I can actually affect the brightness with the LFO once I open it up. Some of these are going into the UVCA, so I can play around with it. Metropolis is going to be a very much a live thing where I'm going to play with the stages and the steps and play things up and down.
It's a very like playable sequencer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the idea of using something like this in such a small, modest case, is I want the flexibility of being able to play live. And everything then runs through the Mutamix, the IntelliGel Mutamix, so I can run and mix everything in here, goes through an Eventide and a scooper. So the scooper, I can track various lines and run it over, against, through, with, however I want to do it. Almost difficult to talk about it without actually doing it. So it's funny talking about it now and seeing what it will be in a few hours' time.
Yeah, because we don't quite know, and I guess neither do you. So that's...
No, and for me that's the joy. I mean, I've spent so many years in front of screens, and it's a very logical way of working. And I can tidy everything up. This is very much about the moment. It's more, rock and roll is the wrong term, but it has an element of flexibility about it and unpredictability, which is really, really exciting for you as a performer when you're not exactly sure what it's going to do. For some people, maybe it's too intimidating. They want something much more refined and tidy. That's not me. In myself, I'm relatively refined, I'm relatively tidy, but in a live situation, I like to throw out and see what can happen.